I'm discovering things. I have a bottle of Belagus in this market in Paris called Les Enfants Rouges. I say, I want something I never tried before, but it needs to be bloody delicious. And the guy said, I've got exactly what he wants. And he opened the quartz.
Oh, he's doing top one as well.
Oh, well, man, I said, I want the best. But like, I went like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is everything I love about a white wine. You know, I love a lot of the classic, but sometimes it's good to be adventurous about the best of what they do in their craft.
Today, we're going to explore the Make It Iconic Choose France campaign. And we're here with two Australian French icons of the world. We've got Guillaume Brahimi and Franck Moreau. I'm Jason.
And I'm Trent, and we're here on our unapologetically unprofessional, unfiltered wine journey. And we're saying here, Jace.
Our saying is drink more, try more, learn more, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Guillaume and Franck, thank you so much for joining us. It is a windy and cold day here in Sydney, but that doesn't matter because we're going to have a great conversation about French wine and French food. We're very excited to have you on. In particular, what we want to explore is the French spirit, the French audacity, the spirit of innovation and reinvention. And we want to discuss that, particularly about the food and wine scene. We're also going to discuss the Cite du Vin, which is a wine museum in Bordeaux. And we're going to go through a beautiful set of questions. And so we at the Wind Up podcast, we like to do something called the Wind Up Icebreaker questions. We've got 5 of them we'd like to ask.
Okay, I'll start with you first. Most memorable wine?
95 Romanée Conti.
I'm going to throw another one. Most memorable food dish?
The chocolate tart at l'Ambroisie.
Wow. Okay. A person, past or present, that you love to have a bottle of wine with, and also what bottle would that be?
With my dad. And a great Bordeaux.
Great Bordeaux.
Yeah. Be probably a Latour.
Favorite grape varietal?
Chardonnay followed by Pinot Noir.
Any unique food and wine pairings?
Every dish is unique with a pairing.
Yeah.
So, I'm still learning from it, but there is a reason why they say a duck is great with Pinot Noir, and lamb is great with Bordeaux. So I'm keep adventurous on that part. Yeah.
Let's say there's a young 10-year-old Guillaume somewhere. He's about to enter his gastronomic journey. What advice would you give him?
Listen, and keep the love of the work well done. L'amour du travail bien fait. And the respect of the produce. If you stick with these 3 things, you're on the right path.
Fantastic. Over to you, Franck. Most memorable wine?
1959 Salon. Champagne.
Salon, wow.
Oh, yeah.
One of them, it's hard to pick one, but, it's because of the people of the memory of the moment as well.
Most memorable dish?
I'm going to say is my grandmother.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she's not here, but is from a very famous chef called Trois Gros. Is a salmon and sorrel sauce.
Oh, yeah. Classic dish.
And I can't find the good sorrel in Australia to make this dish.
Yeah, it's not bitter enough.
Yeah. Wow. A person, past or present, they'll love to have a bottle of wine with, and also what wine?
I don't know what wine, but I think, maybe a person I didn't spend enough time and is kind of a mentor for me. Was called Gérard Basset. So he was one of the best men in the world. He passed away a few years ago. And what I would bring, I think, is not about the wine. I think it's about what we will talk about it. And sometimes, I don't think the wine's going to make the night. So I will, maybe it will not be something, something more local, more something.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be about the wine.
Yeah. Any unique food and wine pairings that have kind of blown you away?
Yes. And there's something maybe not about wine. It was a plum sake with spinach crab and apple. It was someone gave it to me, and it was a beautiful crab dish and pig crab with apple.
Yeah.
And someone said it was a plum sake and ice cube in it to dilute it a little bit so it doesn't get pronunciated. And I kind of laughed at the beginning of the match, and after I found it, my God, it was the most surprising matching what I didn't expect it.
Okay, so you're going to be now talking to a young 10-year-old Franck in Burgundy as well. Everything ahead of him, about to enter his gastronomic journey. What advice would you give him?
Try as much as you can. At the end of the day, it's about discovery. So I would put my son on it. Try to taste it, show him what good is about it.
Fantastic.
good is where I will go. I think if you teach and show the good thing of life, this person will get it.
Fantastic. That's it. Well done.
That's the wind up icebreaker questions.
Okay, so we're here to discover a bit more about France and Australia and to make an iconic campaign. Firstly, what does that mean for you guys? Start with you first, Guillaume.
Well, I think France is an iconic country. And when you think about it and you will say, France, you can ask people in the street, tell me the first word will come to your mind when you think about France. I think cuisine would be, straight away. Champagne, wine, and monument. And me, I would say the French rugby team, but that's a different story.
Mostly after the weekend.
Yeah. And for you, Frank, what does that make it iconic mean for you?
We work in a restaurant, and every time you start speaking and people stop you straight away and say, where are you from? You're from France. And they all have a story about somewhere they've been. Yeah. Sometimes they think I know everything in part of France and they're telling me about every part they've been. But, I always love going back. I just came back and, architecture of France, the paysage, you can travel from 50 kilometers and everything is different. The culture, the people, the language, the food, the wine, everything is a transition. And I think for me, it makes me iconic because it's so passionate and exciting to discover all this little region of France.
I think discover's the key word there. I've been there a few times. I feel like I'm always discovering something new.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't wait to kind of go back. Even though I've said that I've been to France before, but there's always something that you discover and you explore that you find intriguing and exciting as well.
I think part of the exciting thing to discover in France is actually the tradition and history. And I feel like that's such an important part. It's what helps make France be iconic. But at the same time, there might be a need for change. Do you see a need for innovation in the food and wine scene within France?
What is innovation? I think France is the foundation of so many cuisine. And, we are so obsessed in France of outsourcing the best produce. And we want to make sure we follow the season. So France is a very, we got the 4 season, when spring come, you're excited about the green asparagus. So you're going to do dishes with green asparagus. And it's quite funny because after 3 months, when the green asparagus season start to finish, there is a new thing, new vegetable coming in, new produce, the tomatoes coming in, the stone fruit coming in. Yeah. And it goes into a circle of that. I think innovation is about we don't try to create, I always laugh, but I say, what's French cuisine? Well, I still try to perfect the perfect roast chicken.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to do something complicated. I'm trying to outsource the best chicken and roast it perfectly when the meat is nice and juicy. There is a jus in it. And that's not easy. So for me, innovation is, using produce, flavor, we are not used to la cuisine française. There is a reason why we love hot chocolate sauce and vanilla beans ice cream. You know why? Because it's bloody delicious.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily going away from the tradition, but just trying to perfect your techniques and the outcomes that you get out of that. Right?
And I think that's what French cuisine is. And I know Franck will know much more about wine, but in Burgundy, in Bordeaux, and Champagne, who are really the 3 big, well-known region of wine in France.
Yes.
Well, in Burgundy, every season, every vintage, they're trying to make the best Chardonnay, the best Pinot Noir. And let me tell you, the rest of the world tried to imitate that since wine existed.
I mean, innovation is important and the world wants some innovation, but you can make mistake to innovate too quickly. And I think the French tradition is such a way thing has been done for a long time. The positive thing, what I've seen, and I think we want to say a bit more, is the new generation coming. I've been more open. I've been travel a bit more. I've seen the rest of the world, what people are expecting. And I think if we can keep carrying on this of improve technique, a bit of modernization, and I think all these technique will improve of the products we do. And I say the perfection of vintage. When we talk about vintages, the last 10 years definitely some different difficulty on harvest time or but the every winery, every winemaker try to pick at the perfect time, use the best technique to produce the wine. And everyone will tell you wine is not made in a winery, wine is made in a vineyard. And it's the same with the terroir. It's the same with the products. A chef will never can make some good food with products, but the best product will deliver the best food. Absolutely. And you want to do less as minimum when you've got the best products. And I think everyone trying around the world how I can copy the French technique, the French savoir-faire, where they say it. This is about the produce. If you've got the best products from the beginning and you put the hard work in your vineyard or in the garden or the way on the farm, you will get the best products. After this, it's hard to not make it. You should keep it like this. There's no mistake.
And I think also we've got this new generation of chef, winemaker, and French youth, like the 25 to 35 who are traveling. Yes. We're talking about winemakers in Burgundy who never left their street. And now they are going around the world and discovering people. Same for chef. They're going to Asia, they're going to South America. So they're coming here, they're testing different cuisine. And they're saying, oh, that's delicious. That I never thought using that with that. And they come back to France and say, oh, I've got the best produce here. I'm going to share a little bit of what I discover around the world. But at the end, the foundation of the French cuisine is the ABC,
Yeah.
And that's the terroir. You can, the terroir is so important, and the season.
That makes sense. I mean, what I'm hearing is you're not changing the foundations. You're picking up from different things from around the world and helping improve it, but the foundations are still strong. That's great.
I think that's why I love that kind of passion for terroir, as you mentioned. Like you can't replicate Burgundy wine anywhere else in the world but Burgundy. You talk about the produce around like chicken, like breast chicken. You can't get that anywhere else in the world.
And that's what the French are so, when I travel France doing my shows, Camembert, the cheese, it's 100 kilometers around the town of Camembert. You can use the same cows, 102 kilometers, use this meat, make the Camembert, but it will be not called Camembert because the terroir, the grass is not the same. And people laugh about it till they go to France and say, wow.
Well, when you tasted the produce, I'm born in the south of Burgundy, but near the chicken, the breast. My house was looking at the breast, and when you taste the best chicken from the beginning, and now you see sometimes this little thin bone chicken where I taste nothing. The first thing when I call my mom and I say I'm coming, cook me a morel chicken with breast chicken with morel sauce is like my first, because it's like something flavor wise I can't replicate.
And you don't know until you try it. You try the supermarket chickens here. It's just it's different, right?
But there's so much thing like, oh, I wish I come with you. But for me, every time I come to France, first thing I do, I go to the market. And grower market here, we've got few are great in Sydney. And I'm telling people, go support the growers market, because growers market is what's the best in the season. Okay. And you can go to all the market in France on the same week and you will see the same produce, and people say they've got everything the same. Yes, because that's in season. That's in season. So when you see white asparagus, they are everywhere. But in 3 weeks later, there is no more white asparagus. And the stone fruit, the strawberry. And that's what I love about it. Everybody know that we're looking forward to the new season.
Yeah, when you talk about the market, I think I can't agree more, because it's the first thing when I always go back is I love, and on the weekend, even now, I don't look what I'm going to cook. I go what produce I find.
Yeah.
And from the produce, I create what I think is the best, where I'm going to find, not going opposite. And I think you get exciting when in France, I always buy much more than I needed because I got too excited. I was I'm going to try this. And this is excitement. And I think, having the best produce at the right time is the best.
Yeah. And the French people, I am a cook. That's what I do for a living. But like, the 70 million, I think there's about that in France, about 70 million. Everybody goes to market. So, like an example, my dad couldn't cook an egg, but my dad would go to this market, who's 20 kilometers from her house, to buy this 24 months old Comté from this fromager, and would drive another 10 kilometers to another market to buy this fresh little goat cheese, because this woman have other cheese, but she specialized with this goat cheese. And it's not just my dad. That's how the French think. That's how they obsess with food. We've got an obsession of food.
I've got to say, listening to you both, you've both already made me really hungry and really excited because the passion's coming through about it.
Wine.
Yeah.
Wine. My dad will have a glass of wine at lunch and at dinner. Only in Australia, when I arrived in Australia, I saw people having sandwiches for lunch. In France, you sit down for lunch. You have you wouldn't have 3 courses. I will. But most of the people who have 2 courses and 1 glass of wine. I never saw my grandfather drinking a glass of water.
No, it's the same. In my house, is the same. You know, you can't have a meal with no wine. You know, it's you just have a glass. You don't have to finish a bottle. Like in Australia, sometimes we need to finish the bottle, and they just 1 glass. And you put the cork back, and you will have the rest for the dinner time. It's not like but it's part of the conviviality of the French. Is you have to have a little one with the food, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, they both enhance each other.
And people saying nobody is, because we eat. It's no binging.
Yeah.
Like you have 1 glass of wine, you don't have the bottle.
Yeah.
You don't, like the French are, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm working on that.
Yeah. Just on the campaign, make it iconic, I feel like France is already kind of iconic. Like, how do we make that a louder voice to kind of bring more people to France to look at the food and wine? What do we need to do?
Well, I think this campaign is fantastic. Like the Olympics in Paris were unbelievable. I was there. I never saw the city where I was born so beautiful. The Rugby World Cup the 2 years before, like France is an amazing country, and what we need to show to people, it's affordable. People get worried and wine is expensive, hotel are expensive. Well, yes, if you want to stay in a French Riviera, if you want to stay in the Champs-Élysées, if you want to drink first grow, and it's expensive, but there's so many. Let me tell you, getting a car and going to Burgundy, you stop to little bistro and have a poulet au mori with a glass of Burgundy,
for 25 euro, you can have a good meal.
There is a lot of for tourists. There's some terrible places in Paris, like everywhere in the world, but there is also some jewel. Driving. I did the whole French Atlantic side, all the way from Normandy, Brittany to Bordeaux to the Pays Basque. You stop at village, like you buy a turbo in a restaurant, it will cost so expensive, and you cannot just have that at the market with some scallops or oysters. It's cheap. Yeah. What's important is when you go to France, you have a plan, meaning don't try to do everything. If you go for 2 weeks, don't try to go from Champagne to Bordeaux to Burgundy, and map your trip and come back a couple of years, because there's so much to discover and you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, we're talking earlier, like to get from Paris to Bordeaux, it's just a train ride away. Is it 2 to 3 hours?
I mean, the train is amazing. But iconic in France, I think, look at when you travel to France, people say Paris, seeing the big city, or the French Riviera. I think discover outside of this big city is so much more to see. And I think you can meet the people. The French, as much people think they're sometimes a bit grumpy, they're very welcoming. And mostly if you try to feel a few words, just go to wake up the morning, cook the bakery. Yeah. It's so many to enjoy, and discover all these little villages from the Loire Valley to Bordeaux to the southwest of France, the Languedoc, Rhone Valley, so many Alsace, and every region's got what I said, different type of people, different cuisine, different paysage. You will discover this. And for me, that is a true France. And
what's coming through is love and passion. I feel like, especially now with so much geopolitics around the world at the moment, focus on the simple things around food, wine, love, passion.
And one thing the French got, they love France.
Mm.
They love France, they're very proud of what they do, the artisan, and I've been very lucky to travel around France and during this show, meeting bakers, pastry chef, chocolatier, butcher, winemaker. All they're trying to do is the best of what their craft is. So when I talk to this baker who get up every day at 3 a.m. in the middle of nowhere in France, and he's making 80 sourdough, all he wants to do is his wood fire oven is a perfect temperature. His dough is perfect because every day he get up in his mind trying to make the best bread possible for the 120 people who live in that village. And that's France.
Yeah.
That's and me traveling, meeting these people, I'm overwhelmed by joy of this person. That's what he does every day. So me, I'm coming there one morning at 3 a.m. I'm like, 3 a.m. And this guy, he's got a smile, he's happy. And after that, I go to see this lady who's making goat cheese in Sancerre. And she's got all the goats around her. She's talking about it, and it's the best goat cheese in France. This cheese is served in a 3-star Michelin restaurant all over Paris, but you're there with her and there's no fame. That's what I love about France. And the same with the winemaker, especially, and I'll let Frank talk about it, but when I'm very lucky to go to Domaine Rousseau. Domaine Rousseau was probably the pinnacle of Burgundy, or if not
one of them, yeah.
One of them. And the humble people who are making it. We're going to this vineyard Clos Saint-Jacques, and I'm like, oh my God, this wine will be, one of the best wine you can collect in the world. And you're there and you're talking to a winemaker. They've got dirt under their nails. They're touching the soil and they're smelling, and
they're proud of the terroir. They're proud of what they're doing, and they know, and they know the soil. They know the terroir more than they're not pick the grape, waiting for the grape to come to make the wine. They've been part of the
and Frank and I are lucky. We're not living in France, but when we come back, we are so lucky because we can see that.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to the French audacity. And when I hear the word audacity, I think it sounds bad, but actually it's because you are so proud in what you're producing and you're confident in what's come out of it. So audacity is the right word. It's not a bad thing.
No.
It's being confident in what you're producing, loving it. And that's what I'm hearing.
Audacity, like there's a French film festival at the moment in Sydney, and the number of people who are going who are telling me, my God, yeah, we do French movie. There's no guns, but they're so much more powerful. The words are much more powerful than a gun. It's
about the story. It's about the rest of the story of the film and what the message they want to give at the end.
Yeah. Now, if we think about the theme, make it iconic, both of you are icons already in your respective worlds, in the wine and food world. I mean, Guillaume, we were talking about it earlier. You've got your TV shows. Obviously, Guillaume at Benelong, the famous Sydney Opera House, was an iconic restaurant that you'd had. You talked about being an apprentice chef under Joël Robuchon. All iconic moments. I think you were also knighted a Knight of the National Order in France.
I asked him to say it in French, but
I am not going to try and pronounce how you say that in French. But if we think about iconic moments in your life, what would be the most iconic and why is it iconic?
I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky to have some great mentor who guide me when I was much younger, but one of the defining moments for me was, I was doing a work experience at a restaurant called La Tour d'Argent in Paris, a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I was just turned 14.
We didn't work together, but we work at the same place.
Oh, wow.
I was with Dominique Boucher, the chef.
Is that where they press the duck? Yeah.
Dominique Boucher was just finishing. It was in 2000, a few years after you.
So I moved from Boucher to go to Jamin.
Yeah, very good.
But the key moment was like small moment, but like I was bad at school, dyslexic, never have a good report. You know, my school report was 2, 3 out of 10 all the time. I was petrified going home to show my report to my parents. One thing who marked me was coming on a Wednesday with my bad report, opening the door of my parents' house, and the smell of the roast chicken. I was like, well, everything's not that bad. If mom cooked the roast chicken, so the roast chicken smell was my security blanket.
Yeah.
So already I did have this huge comfort with smell. And after that, the school teacher said, what are we going to do with him? And I said to my dad, I want to cook. So my dad lucky knew a few people and sent me to La Tour d'Argent. And I spent 2 weeks there instead of my friend going skiing, you know, school holidays. And I was in pastry and downstairs in pastry, and they made me do an apple tart. So I made the apple tart, and the big chef come. He didn't know who I was. And he said to the pastry chef, who made that tart? And he said, oh, that's a young stagiaire, Guillaume, like the kid up there. And he said, come here. And I was petrified. I come and he said to me, that's a 10 out of 10. And he said to me, I want you to take it to your parents. And my dad was picking me up, and I took my school reports, and I was in a car. I said, I want to open it when mom is there. So we went to my parents' place, mom, and I opened it, and my dad said, that's delicious. That's beautiful. I said, no, Dad, that's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I was 14. So
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I was so young 14, at that age.
Yeah, I was working crazy at 14. But that was like the first time I bought something home and I was proud of.
Yeah.
And that was it. I started cooking at 14.
It's great to have such an iconic moment early on in your...
But also, my dad said, we're going to help you, you know, because 14 in Paris doing a pre-apprenticeship, I'm not telling you how much my wages was, but I couldn't afford a bedroom. I couldn't afford transport. So my parents support me on that. And also what you have to remember, we're talking about the 80s here, like there was no master chef, were not cool. You know, chef, like my dad would have said, what do you want to cook? Mom is really good. Yeah. We don't need another cook in the house. What about being a doctor or lawyer? Like, you know, so that was not fashionable. And many times I wanted to quit, and my dad he said to me one phrase who marked me for the rest of my life. He said, you are making an investment for the future. You are making an investment for the future. And many times I repeat that phrase to young kids in my industry, because most of the young people who want to be chef now, there's about 80% who quit. So if you stick to it, you're 20%, you're already there.
Persistence and effort.
Yeah.
You mentioned the roast chicken was your security blanket.
I still is.
Who makes a better roast chicken, you or your mum?
Oh, my grandmother. Mother always had that. But I am just a produce of, you know, like you're talking about the knighthood I got. And I was very lucky. My parents were there, and Emmanuel Macron was there. And when he gave it to me, and for me, it's just, I wouldn't get that without my dad, my grandparents, that's them, not me. I was just very lucky to have them.
Wow.
That's that humble spirit coming.
Yeah.
No, I'm not very humble. Trust me.
Oh, really? I do think you talked about...
No, but they're very important things for me, you know, like all the little thing, all the effort. My dad coming to pick me up because I was too young to take the subway on a Friday night. I used to finish at 1 a.m. and he used to drive from Versailles to pick me up at 1 a.m. on a Friday night to take me home, you know, so.
We're in Sydney at the moment, and in Australia, there's always this term kind of modern Australian cuisine. Is there such thing as a modern French cuisine? And we're talking about innovation as well.
Well, I think the modern Australian cuisine was created because Australian cuisine was, you know, overcooked lamb, potatoes, carrots, broccoli. No, but that's true.
Yeah.
That was what, and it can be delicious when it's done properly. And you have some great Australian chef like Neil Perry, you know, like who say, you know, like I want to use the best produce. And I love Asian because we got a big Asian community, and we got some, you know, coriander, ginger things in France, you know, 30 years ago, trying to find ginger, like, what's wrong with you? You know, like, so modern Australian, I think Australia's got a great cuisine now. There's some great Australian chefs. And again, the great thing with Australian, they travel. You know, you work 3-4 years in a kitchen of one of the best restaurants, you know, at Mimi's, at Fred's, all of that. And after that, you say, you know what? I'm going to go to London, Paris, New York. I want to learn more. And you come back. So you got this knowledge from Australian cuisine. You go with the best around the world and come back here. Australian cuisine never been so healthy. And, you know, and I'm talking East Coast, you know, Melbourne, Sydney are world-class city, and we got world-class restaurant and world-class service. And I'm not going to say that because Frank is there, but you know, one of my favorite restaurant, Mimi's in Coogee, it's a pinnacle of what I believe Australian restaurants are. The service is casual, friendly, but so professional, and never undermine the guest. And the cuisine of Jersey is world class. So I think we're in good place with modern Australian cuisine or Australian cuisine.
Yeah.
You mentioned in Australia there is such a focus on healthy food, being health conscious. And when I think about the French cuisine, I think about it's rich and maybe creamy. And I don't know if that's a myth or not, but is that the case? And is there a change that's happening?
Well, definitely the French use more butter and cream than the Australian. That's without a doubt, because we got better butter and cream. That's no, but also, you know, like there's things like there's one of the great French chefs. I didn't create that. Bernard Loiseau created that. One of the great French chefs, beef bourguignon. You know, you think beef bourguignon is a beef stew. It's for men. Yeah, it's a rich thing. The only reason why it's very rich and you feel terrible the next day is because they used to use corn flour to thicken the sauce. So put corn flour in your stomach. Of course, you're not going to feel well. And a person like Bernard Loiseau decided to use carrot puree to replace the corn flour. And let me tell you, when you eat the beef bourguignon with carrot puree, it's light and delicious without taking away the flavor of the ABC of the beef bourguignon. So it is harder to get a celery juice in Paris than it is in Sydney. Yes, but we're getting there.
I think when you go to France, it's a French, you know, if you don't have cream, butter or more flavor, you don't feel like it's the right cooking, you know. Definitely, I think, you know, what I've seen is where you are around France, you know. If you go to the south of France, there is no much cream or butter as well used. It's about where you are. Usually it's a region where it's more cooler. You need more olive oil and richer. So it's every region got different way. But you would need ask Guillaume Mash to make it with no butter. Otherwise it would not taste good, you know.
I also think it talks to that same point you were making earlier about you'll only have one glass of wine. You won't finish the bottle. So moderation is quite key when you're eating these kind of food anyway. So I think that can help balance it out.
Yeah.
You talked about terroir before. We talked about fresh chicken. We've been to Marseille Bouillabaisse. We went to Carcassonne and had some cassoulet as well. What are some of your favorites around France?
They all are, you know, like I think the scallops in Brittany, you know, during the scallop season, outstanding. The turbo fish, sole meunière from Normandy, like it's just terrific. I love, like I would not try to do a poulet braise in Alsace.
Yeah.
In Alsace, I want a choucroute. And I want to try some Alsace wine. But as I'm getting a little bit older, you know, I thought the pinnacle was to drink Bordeaux. Now I know Bordeaux. Bordeaux are very, with my little knowledge of wine, I can really tell Bordeaux. You know, they are very precise. I love the femininity of Burgundy now. Like I love for me, Burgundy is everything. But I'm discovering things like I never thought I would love Chenin Blanc, and I discovered Pelagus.
Yes, very good.
Oh, I have a bottle of Pelagus in this market in Paris called Les Enfants Rouges, Les Enfants du Marché.
Fantastic.
And I open a bottle. I say, I want something I never tried before, but it needs to be bloody delicious. And the guy said, I've got exactly what he wants. And he opened the quartz.
Yeah. Oh, he's a top one as well.
Oh, well, man, I said, I want the best. But like, I went like, oh my God, this is everything I love about a white wine. So I think discovering is, I love a lot of the classic, but sometimes it's good to be adventurous about the best of what they do in their craft. Franck, what about you?
I mean, born in Burgundy is hard not to, born in Bourgogne and Burgundy is what I discovered the most, But definitely I always gonna go back to this kind of roots because I may be tasting the best. But me, I'm always gotta impress everywhere. Every region's got their little, like you say, you go to Alsace, you got the beautiful choucroute, you got to South France, you got the bouillabaisse. So, you go to Bordeaux, you got the little, go to the best street to get the cannelé. So every region brings something unique, and to go with the wine, make discovery. And every time, you can go back to, you got turn us to, okay, I'm going to have to snail, I'm going to eat the chicken. So
like I was speaking Bordeaux, I was talking about it, but like a lamb. So the l'agneau de Pauliac, so Pauliac in Bordeaux with a Pauliac. Simple. I'm talking about a roast leg of lamb, little potatoes, maybe some noirmoutier potatoes, and a glass of
Pauliac.
What would you try to make something different? Like it works. Perfection and that's a terroir. The lamb eat the grass where the vine are. Like it's just, we haven't created that. The earth created.
Simplicity as well. Like my memory around Bordeaux, I had an entrecôte steak with just a glass of Bordeaux wine. The simple.
But like, that's why I say we in Australia, yes, we're promoting France, but we need to, by promoting France in my mind is going to grow a market, drinking Australian wine, eating Australian cheese. Like 30 years ago, there was no Australian cheese. Now you've got some Australian cheese who are world class. Because us as a restaurateur, it would be easy for me on my cheese roll just put French cheese. Yes, I put some French cheese, but I need to support the local. So we need to, same with the wine.
The improvement, I mean, you've been longer than me, but improvement in Australia around, the craft of cheese, of wine, of food in general, like you wasn't seeing 20, 30 years ago, and where it all came because they traveled the world, they went to have a look, they see what people want and they try to replicate, and something will never be the same, but, it's important to eat and drink local. But I think, the first thing when I go to France is, look at the cheese shop, cheese and all because this is something, like I always overdo myself on cheese every time because it's something unique,
Buying bread, baguette, cheese, bottle of wine and go in a park. That's
And speaking of wine, we can smell some fantastic wine that Frank's brought in front of us. And Frank, did you want to pronounce this one?
I bought a couple of wine today. Nothing over the top, but I think something it may make myself. I think champagne, is a way to celebrate. Champagne is no excuse. It's one of the wine you will see to mostly everywhere around the world, and people want to drink champagne. You're gonna bring a big name of champagne, but I thought bring a small grower champagne. And this one is a family tradition. It's called Blanc de Blanc region, in Cremant, and is Petrois-Lebrun is two brothers came back to the grandparents' domain and took over and restart the domain from scratch. So all very very handcraft. The one of them looking at the vineyard, the other one looking at the cells. Is what about family for me is again the link of it. They started. No one was taking over their grandparents' domain. They came back from the south of France. motivate the champagne and start the domain again and learning with that. So quite unique in purity of the champagne. And again, like this is like microclimate inside, inside of the champagne terroir. So for me, the purity, and in champagne, you know, I never heard anyone doesn't like champagne, you know.
So 100% Chardonnay. So
100% Chardonnay. Yeah. 100% Chardonnay. They're lucky they only own, grapes in the Blanc, only in the Grand Cru, only in the Grand Cru vineyard. So they're lucky to own this vineyard.
Very small production then, is it?
Very small, yeah. They're growing. They will become bigger grower in the future, but they're still selling a lot of grapes. So they just want to craft it to make sure they got the quality of the one they make it.
So take me through a trip to Champagne now. I've got the champagne here. What food would I have with this one?
Well, it's a Blanc de Blanc, so Chardonnay, anything from, you know, from crayfish, but also chicken. Yeah. That would go beautiful with a beautiful piece of roast chicken. Don't think about chicken with crispy and potatoes, but I'm thinking more like a pot chicken with you know, the truffle who are starting now.
Yeah.
And some beautiful vegetable. That would be, yeah.
I mean, for me, champagne, it's about delicacy. I like simple. So we will get this more seafood, scampi or
scampi.
Yeah.
Like poached scampi. That just poached scampi with a beautiful mayonnaise. Not the mayonnaise you buy. You make the fresh mayonnaise and just do that, and that. Tout va bien.
I'm thinking like pairing this like Australian style, like a marron, like with an Australian marron.
Yeah.
Fish or any. And the second one is the one because I know Guillaume loved Burgundy, but I thought, you know, I'm born in the Beajoulais, so I thought, you know what, I should bring a one where I discover one, where maybe one of the first one I tasted, maybe a very early age, because I'm born in a one region was 350 inhabitants, so it was more wine vineyard than people living, and all my friend was winemaker. So this is a village 50 kilometers from where I live, Morgon, and he's one of the pioneer of, not pioneer, but he's not Marcel Lapierre, he's Guy Breton, but he learned everything from Marcel Lapierre. So Marcel Lapierre apparently passed away, but Guy Breton was kind of the person Marcel Lapierre pushed Guy Breton to make this wine, and this is a Petit Mac, so this is kind of this top cuvée. So Gamay, grape variety, very soft, elegant, got this more pomegranate character, very earthy, but good acidity, freshness. So
table wine.
Jean-Bert Percier, you know, like you go there, they could bring you the salami and they would have killed the pigs, they would have made it on the table and you eat it.
Yeah.
Simple, you know. And it, for me, is where story make, is where, for me, France is a culture of, you're going to call your friend, you're going to put a bottle of wine, you're going to put a bit of food, and you're going to talk for hours, but talk about everything, but without, you know, you would maybe drink a few bottles of wine during the night, but you would not speed up to drink quicker than you need.
So the chefs in France will open a bottle of Morgon after work, you know, like to have a little bit of piece of fromage, you know, like that's a very saucisson.
Yeah.
Some cheese, perfect.
Nothing overly complicated, just brings out.
But you know, we talk about the roast chicken. All my friends who got, you know, I always remember I was hosting Aston Blumenthal and Thomas Keller in Sydney. We're doing a charity dinner with Neil Perry and Tetsuya and myself, and I invited them to my house for dinner. And I did a roast chicken with roasted potatoes, green salad, some cheese, some great wine. And you know, Aston, there's no more complicated food than Aston, but that's what he wanted, a roast chicken.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, like, the bouquet on this wine is just something I could keep on smelling on and on.
Very perfume, strawberry, raspberry, very delicate, you know, a bit of...
Yeah, it is table wine, but has that kind of like a bit of smoky twigginess.
But table wine doesn't mean cheap, you know.
Yeah.
Table wine means exactly what, when I use the word table wine,
it's a wine of everyday drinking, you know.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
you can put the cork and, you know, tonight it'd be okay.
I know you're in Burgundy at the moment, but like the Beaujolais area is very, very accessible. Right?
We have Beaujolais for my wedding a couple of years ago. We have Lapierre.
Yeah. So
they always say, you know, if it grows together, it goes together. So I'm in Beaujolais at the moment. What would I have with this Gamay?
because it's close to Lyon.
Yeah.
So we'll have it's two dishes, but I will go with a saucisson lyonnais, where I will do in embrioche. And it's one of my favorite. So cook saucisson en brioche.
Oh, wow.
With a bit of red wine jus with a Morgon.
Oh.
I think I would be in heaven, and maybe a watercress salad on the side,
You can talk about terroir before. There's a story where I went with my parents through France, and I think I was near Troyes or near Lyon. And they go, I've got to try the regional specialty, which is andouillette. I remember ordering it, and the chef came around the corner to see me eat it. The smell from it was, oh my God.
So there is a story when the English invaded France, they didn't go to try because everybody was cooking andouillette and it was so smelly. They went around it.
What is it? Sorry, I've never heard of this. It's tripe.
Guts. But you know what? It's beautiful. I like it. A lot of spices in it. You love it or you don't. But that with crispy potato cooking duck fry.
When you're Lyon as well, is very familiar. It's a different style with a mustard. But, it's a very, very, very good.
Must be textural, a good chewy feel to it. Yeah.
You don't want to think too much about that when
I don't mind that. That's okay.
It's okay. I don't mind. I mean, I ate.
But Frank, we said at the start, you're both icons. You're an icon in the wine world. If we think about being a master sommelier, you've worked in Michelin star restaurants. You're the head of the Merivale beverage group as well. If you think about French wine, what does French wine mean to you?
I mean, is a roots, being French is my roots where I learn everything, and, I learn hospitality around the French culture, and, didn't come to hospitality just per mistake.
Yeah.
It's something I always want to do. So, from very young age, I say I want to work in hospitality. And when I started my hospitality part, I say, okay, I realize I need a specification. I was a bit like Guillaume. I would never been the best on my top of my school, but I always love and passionate about hospitality. And then when I touch wine, I just realized, oh my goodness, I didn't remember anything about anything math or anything like this, but I could tell you all the Grand Cru of France. I could tell you everything, remember everything. So it's where I found my passion, and I was lucky to work with on the weekend from a small town with a chef. Is a couple there at the restaurant, and he was going to the market in Lyon middle of the week, buy the fresh products and make one menu. At the time in France, it was quite 30 years ago, where you was on only one menu, and it's only what you can get in a small village of 180 inhabitants where they were at the middle of the Beaujolais. And I learned, and they were passionate for it. And every weekend, all the one, because people can offer, there's only the good winemaker could afford this meal. So I was lucky to have all the people from France coming, from Gramenon to La Pierre to Ravenel to Aubervilliers, all Henri Roch. So I was a newbie because I was 16, 17 years old at the time.
Trying some of the best.
I was not allowed to drink wine, but in France you could taste and everything, So I learned this around this, and I was lucky, and is where a story around one day I was 17, and this couple called me, say, Franck, we're doing a dinner outside of our restaurant. It's a Friday. Can you come? And I said to my parents, oh, Dad, I need to miss school to go to, and it was to go to Domaine d'Orme and Conti.
Oh, wow.
And every year this restaurant was doing the dinner for all their agents. And so I had to go, and my dad said, of course, you will learn more today than you learn at school. And so I went there, and I'm still having the bottle in my house in France, always, because everything was selling with Jeroboam, Magnum, of all the Grand Cru of Domaine d'Orme and Conti that day to all the agents. So it was one of the great story where I think my passion and iconic of the wine started. And I think, for me is where I found the iconic is the travel. So I work at Tour d'Argent like Guillaume, and every Monday, we were lucky somebody was taking us in the vineyard, and because we were working at Tour d'Argent, we were looked quite well after all the winery we were going. So we were the 2 to 3 winery visit, and we were lucky to taste some of the amazing wine from Champagne to Burgundy to Loire Valley, meet the producer and learn about it. And I think for me is where my passion about France and iconic wine of France, and it's not about the big name for me. I'm more discovery about how the wine is made, how they made it, the why, and the story of the family and everything for me is very important. You can buy wine on the shelf on the supermarket. It's great, but it doesn't give you a story. For me, when you go there and you meet the people, you understand what they've been through. 6 to 10 generational people been making wine. For me, is where I think I get exciting and I get he's passionate me about it. And is what I do in Australia now. Is I always encourage my team and the people to say, go to meet the wine producer, go to visit them, meet them, because you will have a different way to translate the wine. Just to open a bottle of wine and pour it. Open a bottle of wine and pour it, everyone can do it. But talk about the story of the wine.
We spoke to Guillaume before about kind of young chefs coming through, and there's also young winemakers coming through France as well. And also the point about innovation. Do you see the wine industry changing? Do you see the kind of winemaking, the style changing as well? What's your kind of take on that?
The technique, now what it was from in the vineyard to in the winery changed completely. Modernization. You can produce wine a bit more cleaner, a bit more easier. Where I think is in the past, people, when the young generation travel around, they think, winery in a New World or in Australia, where you try much cleaner than in Europe. And I think people come back to this and say the importance of make it. And the climate changing and how we can cool down the harvest and or the juice at the right temperature, make it easy for the winery. So I think a lot of technique adjustment, but also on the opposite side, people look at the vineyard, how is the grapes, how is the fruit, tasting, and make sure, even if the laboratory tell you is this, people will go testing how it tastes. It tastes good? Okay, it's maybe the time to pick up as well. So all these seeing a huge amount of change. And I think, the alcohol level, the amount of sulfur used in wine, all this changing, some technique used to be done 50 years ago, maybe not used perfectly at the 50 years ago, and bring back, concrete tank was completely removed, and now they're coming back. So also, I think the producer in the past wasn't talking to each other as much. They knew each other, but it's kind of, you can test my wine, but I'm not going to tell you much now. People are sharing their knowledge, sharing what they do. They want to learn from each other. It's not anymore the competition in the past where it was a bit. I make my wine. I don't tell you anything.
That's Burgundy.
It's busy, but it changed a lot around all France, and I think I've seen that.
We're seeing that evolution, and you're also talking about you quite frequently travel to France. You may have answered this already, but if you were to go back to France now, and to our Australian listeners and viewers out there, where would you recommend for them to visit? What wine should they have? What food should they taste?
Most of the time, you're going to arrive to Paris. I think, you 45 minutes from Champagne from Paris. So you can have a day trip in Champagne easily. Some of the most iconic house of Champagne are there from Reims. Go to visit one of the cellars underneath the Derriere. If you get a chance to go to Wina or anything like this, where they got some very deep cellar and quite a uniqueness of visiting. I would say this is one unique experience. You can create it easily. And after this, it depends on what you start of wine you're looking for. France is not very difficult, but you can go to Burgundy, where Beaune is a center without taking a car. We take a bicycle and travel the Grand Cru in bicycle is an experience you will have and stopping a couple of a winery or staying around Hospice de Beaune. And we mentioned before, go to Bordeaux, 3-hour train from Paris. And here, you maybe need to know a little more people because the doors are pretty close in Bordeaux, but you got two places. You got definitely some of the Medoc area where if you're lucky to visit some of the top chateaux, and you see that when you talk about technology, modernization, and the wealth of chateau, the Medoc got everything and it's quite impressive. Or you go to Saint-Emilion, where is a UNESCO beautiful village and protected, and you've got something unique as well. So it's maybe couple, but you can go to the Rhone Valley, where it's different, the Provence, where all different style, everywhere making wine, and you're not far, you need to stay a long time if you want, but if you've got a short trip, let's say Champagne, definitely the easiest way, and Burgundy and Bordeaux will be the two second, I would say.
It feels like you never have enough time to explore the whole of France. It feels like we're going to talk about Cite du Vin. So in Bordeaux, what does it evoke? What does it mean to you guys?
I think it's fantastic. And I think there's no, if you think about the city who should be hosting that, Bordeaux is perfect. Bordeaux is very happening, university, sports, and it's just a beautiful city.
I heard some amazing thing. I think Bordeaux, at the town, the mayor, last 20 years, put a lot of money to make Bordeaux the city of the wine, and now the way you can travel inside Bordeaux, I think they did a great one. And I think for me, I wrote about education. So I think educating about our history and understanding people, because us we did this, so I've got a good understanding how wine is made and everything. But a lot of tourists sometimes don't know, and I think it's great to have creating an era or a building where everything is there, and you've got the history of the wine to where we are now and where we're going as well. So I think it's something unique.
I think it's also striking, the architecture as well. It feels like it's like a Guggenheim style kind of architecture. So it feels like it is iconic in line with the campaign as well.
And I think for the schools, for the students, that would be a trip. Going to a museum, it's amazing.
It certainly looks futuristic, and we've been talking about innovation throughout this discussion. There's a lot of interactive elements that are within their kind of see and feel experiences that you can have. It's also quite supportive of the world scene in terms of wine, because they've got a wine library there that's got inclusive of Australian wines that are being presented as well. So it kind of seems like it'll do a lot for wine education. Do you feel that this kind of monument and facility is important for the wine industry?
Huge. I mean, and again, you talk about the technology, the new generation, if our role is to educate the next generation about wine and our culture. And if you don't create spaces, you go to the museum, you go to the art gallery, you want to see the art, and it's the same, the wine is an art, at the end of the day. And I believe that in France. So we need to protect it, and you need to be there, and you need to also evolve the way you teach and you educate and you show people, you all got kids the way they are. They're all on the app. They want to touch, they want to see it, they want the visual. Everyone got different way to remind. So I think for me is very important. We keep this,
and a place to see the history of it.
Yes,
just don't forget.
So we're at the end of the interview. Are there any last messages that you'd like to share with our viewers, listeners, about France, make it iconic? Any key call-outs?
I think keep coming. The French people love the tourist. They love showing their country and be adventurous. Just go. Get a car, go travel, stop at a little bistro in the middle of a little small village. And you might have the best day of your life. Talking with local, they might open a bottle of local wine and put some cheese, and they're the best memories. But you don't need a travel agent for that.
Yeah, I was going to say keep it simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate it when we go to France. France got so much to offer. You get surprised always. I go back. I'm very lucky to go back quite often, and every time I discover something I don't know or I haven't seen it, and get lost. Don't plan it. You know where you're going, but get lost. Get in a back street somewhere where you've got so much to see, and look at the local produce. I think where you will see something unique.
Having a glass of wine in a terrace of a Paris cafe and just watching people. What to the wine, it might be a little Chablis, a glass of rosé. It's just like sitting and watching. It is one of our biggest pleasure. Seeing the tourists, seeing the French people, seeing life. Take the time. Take the time. We'll live busy time, but take the time.
Beautiful message. Trent, last reflections.
Last reflections is it feels that everyone's got passion and love for the produce within France. I think it's important to immerse yourself into that kind of area. And the thing that I love as well is that, if you're doing a passion, it's not work, it's a love affair as well. And I think the French definitely have it in terms of loving life, and we need a bit more love in the world these days.
Yeah, it really shines through. I could listen to you both talk for hours, to be honest. And I know this has been a long discussion, but there's just something about your pride and your passion that really comes through, and it's come through from the start of the conversation. That whole French spirit about it is, I think, part of what's making France iconic, because there's such a pride, but also a simplicity in enjoying the simple things in life and doing it well. So I think you've really shared that with us and our viewers, and thank you both for coming on the show. For our viewers out there, if you want to find out more about the Make It Iconic campaign, you can go to the choosefrance.fr/EN website to find out more. Drop us a comment in the section below about what French wine, French food that you really enjoy. That's us here. Thank you both again. As we like to say here, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all.